And they consider United States as just their tools to do that, not some superpower that they need to follow their orders.
On the point of the Middle East, Gaza, is there any possibility of us seeing a ceasefire or any sort of resolution in the immediate future?
I'll say very quickly, I think there is a possibility at some point that you'll get a ceasefire, but will you get a resolution of the crisis between the Palestinians and the Israeli Jews, or will you get a resolution of the war or the genocide in Gaza between the Israelis and Hamas? I think the answer is no. The Israeli goal is to defeat Hamas. I do not believe they can defeat Hamas. I think the Israelis have obviously damaged Hamas considerably, but Hamas is still a formidable fighting force, and the Israelis are in no position to decisively defeat Hamas. And the Israelis have no strategy for settling the conflict inside Greater Israel between the Palestinians, Israeli Jews, other than to ethnically cleanse them. And I do believe the Israelis have been trying to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians from Gaza and from the West Bank, but they have not succeeded. In all likelihood, they will not succeed. And the end result is the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis will go on for a long, long time, long after I pass from this planet. And you also want to remember that the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians is only one of three big conflicts involving Israel at this point in time. There's also a conflict in Lebanon that involves Hezbollah on one side and Israel on the other. And even though you just got a ceasefire, the fact is the Israelis did not decisively defeat Hezbollah. They cannot decisively defeat Hezbollah. And this conflict is going to go on for as far as the eye can see. And then the third conflict, of course, is between Israel and Iran, where the United States might even be involved. The Israelis cannot defeat Iran. And this conflict shows no signs of ending. And indeed, there's a real danger that Iran will get nuclear weapons. So when you look at the Middle East, it's a bleak situation, much like Ukraine. And in my opinion, there is no hope for putting an end to all these conflicts anytime soon.
Do you think the Trump administration might even consider even the slightest possibility to get involved most directly, particularly between Israel and Iran?
No, I think that the Biden administration has demonstrated clearly that we have no interest in getting involved in a war with Iran. It's a war we could not win. And if we did get into a war with Iran, it would incentivize them to get nuclear weapons. So I don't think the Trump administration will be interested in fighting a war against Iran. By the way, what's been going on with regard to Iran and the United States is that both Iran and the United States have been trying to avoid a war between the two countries. Iran doesn't want a war with us any more than we want a war with Iran. It's the Israelis who have been trying to drag us into a war with Iran. The Israelis want the United States to attack Iran, to destroy its nuclear facilities once and for all, which is impossible to do, but they want us to try to do that. And they want us to do so much damage to Iran that we will affect regime change in Iran. And presumably we will then get a government in Iran that's favorable to the United States and to Israel. This is delusional. This is not going to happen. Most American policymakers thankfully understand that, and therefore we're trying to avoid a war with Iran. And again, Iran's trying to avoid a war with us, but it's the Israelis who are trying to drag us into a conflict. And I don't think the Israelis will succeed. with the Trump administration, where they failed with the Biden administration. But one never knows.
I would like to add some words. I agree in general features with what Mr. Mearsheimer has said, because it is true. I just want to make one observation of the theoretical level. So strategy and realism is limited as attitude, as a manner of analysis to some levels of the reality. And when realists, they remark something that that goes beyond the strategical and realist dimension, they say, oh, that is just irrational. And there is a kind of too irrational attitude, I think, in the strategy in the international relations. On one hand, liberal idealism that is promotion of the liberal democracy against the interests of, for example, the United States. That is what is globalism? What is globalist attitude? To sacrifice American national interests in order to promote some agenda of LGBT individualism, posthumanism, something that sounds progressive. And in order to promote this agenda, the way is to get beyond American national interests. So when we are dealing here with some perverted kind of idealism. So ideals beyond the interests. So something that is liberal way. But in the case of Israel, we are dealing with the different kind of not realist attitude. It is not liberal anymore. It is the kind of eschatological agenda. So I think if we consider Israeli far right or religious right, they consider the reality on the totally differently than ourselves. That is not strategical. That is very idealistical, but not liberal in liberal sense. They think that the time of Mashiach, in which the Jews, Israeli Jews believe, should come. That the time of Moshiach, of the Messiah, has come. And in order to accelerate his appearance, so Israel should prepare the path. And to prepare the path is to cleanse the territory of the greater Israel from any kind of shells, any kind of or something that doesn't belong to the core of Israeli identity, and to blow up Mosque Al-Aqsa, and to start to build third temple. That is how Bezalel Smotrich or Ben Gvir or Dov Leor or other intellectuals inside of far right of Israel, they conceive the situation. So they are beyond any strategy. So kill Palestinians, cleanse Gaza, cleanse West Bank, conquer Damascus, kill Assad, cleanse any Palestinians from the promised land. That is the way to accelerate, to provoke the coming first coming of Messiah. We could say that is laughable. We could say that is totally irrelevant or irrealist, but it is so. If we are consequent realists, we need to understand them. And they consider United States as just their tools to do that, not some superpower that they need follow their orders. So they totally they mock on United States. They consider this very stupid but huge power that should be used in to achieve the goal of this small, relatively small group of people, but with very fanatic ideas. That adds some eschatological element to the Middle East strategy. So we need to put on the same scale, on the same level, the realities, strategical realities, what United States wants, what Iran wants, that for Syria or Hezbollah or Hamas could afford, and this eschatological level of totally irresponsible, comparing with strategical level of thinking, behavior. So, and that being not strategical, not realist in its core, in its nature, it acts on the level of the global strategy. So that is, I think, the very important element. So Mr. Mearsheimer has shown some years ago in his, as well, controversial text with Walt, how small Israel is in front of global American interests, how secondary, how unimportant Israel as real political entity is comparing with the global interests of United States of America. And that is totally correct on the level of the realist strategical analysis. That is totally true. But if we take in consideration subjective reality of the Israel government, we could say they are ready to violate any kind of realism, any kind of strategical thinking in favor of their messianic ideals, and we need to deal with that. So it is quite irrational to start war between United States and Iran, but such war could happen. In spite of the contradictions to the interest, the logical, rational interests of all three countries involved, that will destroy, if we consider that in the purely material aspect, Israel, it will damage American strategy, and it will make harm to Iran. Nobody is normally interested in this, in such kind of war, except the people who think differently, and they are not just the marginals. So we should not underestimate marginals. They sometimes they are key players in, as for example, Bolshevists on others. So we need to take them as well in consideration, and that is why I think the situation in the Middle East would not be easily put to truth or peace talk or ceasefire in Gaza or elsewhere in Lebanon, precisely because of this factor. It is just maybe minor factor in the politics, but it is very powerful in the Netanyahu's government. I wouldn't underestimate that.